Hello everyone and welcome to It Goes Off. Well, we've just had round 20 and as I bring in Grantley Bernard, the best way you could describe round 20 as interesting. We've had some spectacular performances for all the wrong reasons and it all starts with the Cairns Taipans. We cannot ignore the fact that they only had 43 points in a game against the Townsville Crocodiles. What is going on with the Cairns Taipans?
Well, but it's not just a one-off, is it?
You wouldn't have thought so.
They are up and down, and I mean, come on, under 12 teams up and down the country on Friday night are scoring 43. 43!
Well, it's an issue that we touched on last season, and we actually got a little bit berated by some of the fans out there saying we're talking down the game, talking about how the scoring levels had come down a little bit. I think we need to start to have a discussion on an explanation as to why. Now, I still love the game. I still think it's fantastic. You can admire the strategy that's going on and some of the intricacies of it. But there's no doubt that to the average fan, when they see a scoreline like that, and in general some of the scorelines, they start to raise questions about the competition. Now, it's very healthy, a lot of talent out there, but is it the coaching? Is it the shooting? Is it the defensive strategies? What is it that's causing so many low-scoring contests?
Well, I think it's probably a combination of all three, but you've just got to think that surely it's just a lack of putting the ball in the hole. Overall, surely that's got to be it. If teams are getting their shots off, at this level you've got to expect they're going to make a better percentage than what teams do. You know, the shooting percentages probably were down over the whole weekend, but to come up with 43 points in an elite level game, I mean, you know, but between us, we had 40 plus 100 times.
We did
in the NBL. We had a 40, 100 plus. So that's as many as they've scored in a game as a team.
No,
I mean, you averaged 44.4 one season.
Yes. Well, I think
the Tigers only averaged 46, but that doesn't matter.
Grantley, I think though it's a little bit deeper than just saying that it's just the shooting percentages of the individuals. I actually think that the way the game's been played, the emphasis on defence, also the strategies that a lot of the coaches are using, players need a little bit more help these days because of the defence and the offensive structures across the board. It's very hit and miss. It's, you know, you see a lot of the teams, they go 8, 9 deep. So players, this year, the leading scorer in the competition is averaging 17 points a game. That's Cameron Tregar. And on his current form, it's not unrealistic to think that at the end of the season, the leading scorer individually in the competition is going to be around about 16 points a game.
It's not a lot.
Now, that in itself, I think, is something that it's a concern.
Well, it is. It is. I think people want to see scoring. They want to see the ball going in the hole. They want to see spectacular plays. They want to see shots made. It's interesting you talk about, you know, it's got to go deeper than, you know, people just making shots and you've got to get help against the defence and that. But look to the States and look to the NBA and look to college where traditionally the trends are set. Well, the scoring doesn't really seem to have taken much of a dive there. So, you know, what's the difference? What do you make of that?
Well, the collegiate level is a lot more structure. So coaches, they've got a 35-second shot clock, so they've got more time to work it around and free people up. And, you know, in the NBA, it's just sheer talent. I mean, you really don't have to do too much out there. You just throw the ball to anyone. They've just got sheer individual talent that can get it done. So probably somewhere in the middle there is where I think where we need to be at. But certainly, like I say, there's a lot of great things happening out there. If you're a student of the game, certainly plenty to look at. But gee whiz, we'd like to see some points on the board. Do you reckon there needs to any of the rules of the game? I know we went from 48 to 40. But I don't think that's an explanation as to why the style of play has changed as much as it has.
All you could say is if it had been a 48-minute game, they might have cracked 50.
Exactly. Well, it was still one where it was a bit of Jekyll and Hyde for the Crocs because they had for the Taipans, because they had 43 in that game and they bounced back the very next night against the Melbourne Tigers and had 77. Now, right now we go 77. Whoopee! But 77, still not a lot. But they were able to hold the Melbourne Tigers to 56. so well done for the Cairns Taipans, the way in which they were able to bounce back from a pretty dismal offensive display and not get disheartened by it. And full credit to the Taipans fans. They come out in force to support their team against the Tigers.
Say one thing about the Taipans. They are resilient.
And I like the way they play. I actually enjoy, they have more half-court structure and more theory in their offensive structure than any other team in the competition. And that is the reason why, when you look at their talent, there's not much difference between their talent and the Wollongong Hawks' talent, the Adelaide 36ers' talent, but they're full credit to Allan Turner that he's getting the best out of him with a bit of help from some structure offensively.
No, look, I mean, like you say, if all the pieces are in place there, the ball's got to go in the hole.
Just got to put the ball in the hole, according to Grantley.
It's a simple game.
Do not complicate it.
Free throws and layups and free throws. Make a big difference.
Pretty straightforward. Grantley, last week we also saw the Sydney Kings and Ian Moosh Rebillard have decided to part ways from a coaching standpoint. Ian Rebillard's taken over the role as the CEO of the Sydney Kings and he's stepped aside from the coaching position, and they've put out a tender document almost, or a job description for the coach they're looking for. Who are some of the candidates to Sydney Kings that you've identified would be interested in?
Well, it's an interesting scenario. I mean, and it's a bit hard not to get move away from the same old names. But I don't know that there's a fresh crop of names ready to step into the NBL just yet.
Well, there is, but if you look at their document about their job description, I mean, you really need to be significantly qualified. So it's not like they're going to go down the track, which they did the first time with Ian Rebilard, with an untried coach. They want someone with some history, some runs on the board, and some of the candidates that are out there.
Well, look, I mean, the obvious ones are, Brendan Joyce, Guy Malloy, Daryl McDonald, who's had a little taste of coaching, played a long time in the league, Westover, and Tab Baldwin. I think from what I hear, Tab was very close to the Tigers' job.
He was.
Before Trevor Gleeson zoomed in late.
He was.
So he could be one to keep an eye on. Brendan Joyce, possibility. Guy Malloy. Now, he's an intriguing one for me that he's got NBL coaching experience, a lot of NBL assistant coaching experience, but is still probably relatively fresh in that he hasn't been overworked in the NBL. Right now he's coaching at Ballarat.
Correct.
Turned that program around from being on its knees to being quite respected again. And, so maybe a Guy Malloy is the type of person they could be looking for.
He spent a year under Brian Goorjian as well. And that year when the Dragons won it, he was instrumental in the offensive structure that the Dragons using the shuffle offense. And he's also the head coach of the under-17 Australian team. So you have a good handle of all the up-and-coming juniors. So Guy Malloy would be a fantastic position. But when you look at those names that you've just reeled off, if that was the panel, if they were the candidates the selection panel was considering, very hard to go wrong with any of those individuals that you mentioned.
Yeah, I think.
Who'd you pick? Right. Who's your? If you're sitting on the committee and you don't have the opportunity to hear the interviews of each of those candidates, who are you going to pick, Grantley?
Boy, that's tough. If put it this way, I would get to a short list. I'd get to a short list for a short man, right?
Yep.
And my three on the short list, purely because they'd probably bring a bit of a freshness to it, would be Guy Malloy, Daryl McDonald, and Tab Baldwin.
Correct. I think you're good. The other two would be outstanding if they got the job, because the history, Alan Westover, Brendan Joyce, both won titles, would be brilliant position. But as you say, just to get a little bit of something, a freshness in there, that may be something as well. Grantley, the Gold Coast players, your team, they'd responded to your boycotting of them, not wanting to speak about them, and they reeled off 5 straight. But they've come back with a bit of a thud to the Townsville Crocodiles on the weekend and only were able to put 66 points on the board. We've sort of raised this issue about the Gold Coast players as we've gone through. Are they the real deal, or are they a bit of smoke and mirrors?
Oh, possibly. Look, I still think they're going to be a factor.
Yep.
If they make the playoffs. But right now the big thing that everyone identifies with Gold Coast is they're a donut, no centre, right? Ooh. So that is a factor. But
I've had donuts with jam in the middle that have been quite tasty.
Anyway, the factor for me is not the donut factor.
Right. Okay.
Okay. For me, it's the jam.
Right.
But who's around the jam?
Correct.
Because it seems to me that it's De Leon and Worthington are always coming up with the goods. So they're the jam. But where's the rest of the donut?
Right.
Okay?
Well, Adam Gibson's been very, very good.
Yeah, but he's been a bit inconsistent.
Not of late, but certainly in the start of the year.
That needs to come,
Yep.
more often, and bring it every game. But not just him. De Leon and Worthington, they need more help all round. And I think that's where they tend to let themselves down. They've obviously done a good job on that winning streak, but now the team as a whole, I think, needs to really come strong over the next half dozen games in the playoffs, if they do make it.
They play that high-octane defensive full-court pressure, and it's been successful in recent times. And this game, however, they weren't able to put the ball in the hole, getting back to your point. Only shot it at 34% and missed 11 free throws. So you wouldn't think that when you look at the reasons or an explanation to find why they come up short against the Crocs, but full credit to the Crocs. Last week in round 19, they played against the Adelaide 36ers, and Paul Wolpert was as scathing as you would ever seen of his team after that Adelaide 36ers result. And it can be a real risky strategy by a coach to have that approach and be so open and public with your criticism of your players. But it seems to have worked wonders, because they've come out and held the Taipans to 43, and then gone and held the Gold Coast Blaze, the high-scoring Gold Coast Blaze, to 66 at 34%. So clearly they've picked it up on the defensive end, the Crocs, with their 2-0 weekend.
It would appear that is the case. So Paul Wolpert is clearly leading the race for Defensive Coach of the Year award.
Well, I don't know about that, but he did some fantastic things, and the Crocs puts themselves right in the mix of not only making the top four, but having just a sneaky bit of a smell of a top two position. So still a long way to go for them, but we'll see how that all pans out. Grantley, it's now time to have a look at some of the good performances and some of the not good performance in a little segment we call Who's Hot? Who's Not? And as per usual, I'm going to have a look at some of the more hot performances, and I'm going to start it off with Jesse Wagstaff. Earlier on in the season, we threw him into the mix. We saw that Wildcat had a few injuries, and he came on and had some opportunities and put some points on the board. Well, he's done it again, and this week he had 25 points and 8 rebounds in an impressive display against the Sydney Kings. Also, Peter Crawford is having, dare I say it, Grantley Bernard, possibly his best season ever. Now, he's getting to that stage where you put him in the veteran category when it comes to the NBL, but he has just been fantastic. Full credit here, I think, goes to Paul Wolpert to get the best out of him. But again, on the weekend, 14 points and 22 points, respectively, on 8 of 11 from the field goals against the Gold Coast Blaze. So he is shooting the ball very, very well. And Thomas Abercrombie, this young man is a sensation for the New Zealand Breakers. He had a cracking game with 25 points on 11 of 16 from the field. He's an athletic fool, and he's adding just a little bit of jump shot, maturing as they would have hoped over there with the New Zealand Breakers. So another worthy performance in the hot category. Now, who are some of the lesser performance, Grantley?
The not hots. We can't go past the Taipans.
Not hot.
43 points. 43.
Unbelievable.
43 points.
You sort of have to, you need to say it one more time just for emphasis, because people on the YouTube, they think, oh, gee, maybe there was a little stuttering here. No, 43 points.
43 points.
Not hot.
Enough said. The Kings, 5 straight losses. Stone cold. And
against the Perth Wildcats, 24 turnovers.
Yeah, not good.
I mean, that's not good enough. And if you take that component out, if you take their turnovers out of it in the last few games, you'd expect that they would have had a few wins. Because even in this game against the Perth Wildcats, they were well and truly in the mix.
Yeah, for sure. And if I could give Tim Hudson just a little bit of advice.
Please.
As the interim coach of the Kings, maybe on the way home from that road trip, he should have stopped at Bunnings. And just got a few handles to screw on the ball for practice.
Right.
Finally, not hot.
Yes.
The Blaze. Shooting. 66 points. Not great, but 21 of 61 from the field. That's only 34%.
Yes.
And then they went 4 of 20 on 3. 4 of 20 on threes. It's 20%. And then only 20 of 31 on free throws. 65% on free throws. That's not a good result. You know, it doesn't take much to swing a game.
No.
You know, you make an extra 2 free throws every quarter. There's
Correct.
8 points. You make an extra 2 buckets every quarter. So that's, you know, another 16. There's 24 points without trying. Game over.
It is that simple, Grantley. I don't know what's going on with you. The way you put it, Grantley, seems so easy. But
basketball's not a complicated game.
well, no, put the ball in the hole is generally the objective of what's going on. And the Gold Coast players, as you mentioned, weren't able to do that.
Hey, if Doc Naismith hadn't wanted you to put the ball in the basket, he wouldn't have nailed the peach baskets to the balcony.
Correct. Now, Grantley, round 21's coming up, and not only is it an exciting time for all the players we head towards the playoffs, but it's also community round in the NBL. That's where the players, the clubs get out there and spread the good word and try and provide assistance wherever they can. And the NBL as a whole has joined forces with the Zaidee Foundation. Now, the Zaidee Foundation is a wonderful organisation that does some great things in creating awareness about organ and tissue donation. And anyone that can go onto their website, zaidees.org, and you can buy a bear, you can buy a sweatband here that can put your little money in. And all this goes to raising some very important funds. And as part of that and part of the celebrations, all the players in the competition are going to be wearing rainbow shoelaces. So it's a fantastic initiative by the NBL. It's a great cause, and the NBL is doing their absolute very best to promote it.
Look, it's a great initiative and a great cause. Apparently, they've promised that if they can get enough money from the NBL fans, that they will give the Cairns Taipans an offensive transplant. Now, I don't know if that will happen or not,
Right.
but we can only try. But seriously, Zaidees is fantastic. It's a well-known organisation, especially for the rainbow shoelaces. Right. They're only $5 a pair.
Yep.
Get on the website, coaches, team managers, whatever, buy a set for your team. Get them decked out, support the cause.
Well, we caught up with Allan Turner, who is the CEO of the Zaidees Foundation, and he had a few words about the collaboration with the NBL.
The NBL is excited to feature the Zaidee Foundation in this year's community round, and I'm here with CEO of the Zaidee Rainbow Foundation, Allan Turner. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And what does it mean to Zaidees to be partnering with the NBL in this year's inaugural community round?
Well, it's great. I'm an old basketball from way back. I used to play a couple of games, wouldn't show it, but a couple of games with the Melbourne Tigers. Spent a couple of years down there playing in junior and senior basketball. And so I've been very passionate about basketball since I was 5 years of age, playing for the YMCA down at Brighton. And to get this sport that I love so much, and to get the breadth of Australia sport behind us in basketball, it's a great achievement for the foundation. But even greater achievement for Zaidee to have her laces in all these basketball shoes during the community round.
It's a fantastic initiative by the NBL, and good luck. And get out there and you're at the game and try and purchase some of those products out there. Grantley, it's now time for the Mark Zig Minute. That's where we let you join in the conversation and get your feedback. And as we do every week, a NBL Spalding game ball on offer to the best questions. Now, we've been inundated with questions. There's been dozens of questions coming in, and
your kids have been very busy on the Facebook this week.
We cannot tackle them all, but we're going to start off with Cody McGowan. What's he got for us, Grantley?
Cody McGowan wants to know, what are your guys' thoughts on expansion? He says it's too soon in his opinion. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think that it's time now, particularly here in Victoria, where the market is very strong. There's only one team. Historically, there's been many teams come out of Victoria. Unfortunately, some of them have gone by the wayside. But this is a market that can support more than one team. And also, when you look at the emerging junior talent, you look at the talent that's currently playing collegiate basketball in the United States, we need to find opportunities for these players to come over here and continue to develop their skills. So playing at the NBL is critical, and I think also, hopefully, that we get eventually another team up in Queensland. They've got quite a few, but
in Brisbane.
In particular, in Brisbane. I think they are two markets, another team in Melbourne and a team in Brisbane, that the league is ready for expansion in those areas.
Yeah, I think so. There was another interesting question on the Facebook page, and that was, is there enough talent to support expansion? Well, in the past, there's always been plenty of talent, and there's no reason why there's not going to be enough talent now and in the future. Have a look at the SEABL, for instance. Bundles of talent there.
Oodles.
It's people just needing an opportunity.
Correct. And we've seen that recently with Jeremy Lin coming out here, and you'd see what happens when a player gets an opportunity over there in the NBA. He's gone on to become a superstar. Well, so far in his first couple of weeks anyway, he's been a sensation. And similarly here, there's a lot of players running around, and also that collegiate market where once the players finish their college careers, they come back, and hopefully we can provide a few more opportunities from there. Lachlan Gaffney, he's got a question, and I'll pose it to you, Grantley Bernard. How many wins are needed after 25 rounds, that's the end of the regular season, to secure fourth place and a spot in the finals? This is a question that was on the NBL website, and the general consensus, or the most popular answer at the time I viewed it, was 16. Now, I actually think, given the way recent results have gone, 15 will probably get someone in there, but 16 will guarantee you're in the playoffs.
I think 16 will certainly get you over the line. Just having a look at it right now, the Crocs and the Taipans are in third and fourth with 13, and the Blaze have got 11.
Yep.
So 15 could be
enough.
Could be enough. Depending on splits, possibly.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got two teams tied on 15, obviously it's going to come down to splits. But I think 15 right now is going to be good enough.
It's going to get you in the ballpark.
And that's certainly what the Melbourne Tigers are hoping for. Now, I don't think they...
Will you give that up?
I don't think they sit all that favourably with the splits, so it may be a bit more difficult for them. But they still can go 5-0. You can't make a comment, so I can talk to them as much as I like. I know I'm not going to get any ridiculous interruptions from your good self, because you've put a blanket ban on them, and unfortunately, you're probably not going to have to talk about them for the rest of the season.
The ban's coming off for the last question.
All right, what have we got? Daniel Jai Cornish.
Will Andrew Gaze be
no.
putting his hand up for a Tigers jersey next season, which I think is a little facetious, but more seriously, or be taking the coach's position?
Oh, no.
Now,
yes.
We're not suggesting you're going to knife Trevor Gleeson.
No.
But let's get this on the record once and for all.
Please.
Do you have any interest in coaching the Tigers and or in the NBL?
Well, in the NBL, I am coaching the Tigers. I'm coaching the under-18 Melbourne Tigers, trying to shape some of the junior players up into the senior ranks. But right now, the timing's not absolutely right for me, but sometime down the track, I hope that opportunity doesn't pass me by, but sometime down the track, I would like to be coaching at the senior level. I do get a little bit of it because I take the teams to China, and I get to coach many of the players that are running around in the NBL, get to experience them in a sort of a little bit different environment when you're over there in China on an all-star tour.
So you like all care, no responsibility. Is that how you like to coach?
Well, it is a lot more fun doing that, but there clearly would be a lot more responsibility coaching the NBL. But Trevor Gleeson's got a 3-year deal, so he's changing the culture of the team. They've got a new ownership group. They need time to bed that down. All right,
so let's get this on the record. Yes, you have NBL coaching ambitions.
Well, I have coaching ambitions at the highest level, not necessarily in the NBL, not necessarily the Melbourne Tigers, but I'd like to think. I can't do it now. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to do that right now, but down the track, hopefully it doesn't pass me by.
Life too easy right now?
Well, no, it's not. It is. I'm living a dream. Living a dream, Grantley Bernard, as you are coming in here every week to talk about the NBL. So, Grantley, who's going to win the ball this week? The NBL Spalding Game Ball. And, of course, you can ask a question, which these three people have, via the Facebook page, the NBL Facebook page, or jump on the Twitter, which is another apparently fairly popular form of social media these days. Andrew Gage 10 and Grantley Bernard is the other one that you need to talk to, both Grantley and myself. Who have you chosen to pick up the sporting ball today? Official game ball valued at $129.
3 very good questions,
Excellent
including
questions.
one that actually got you off the fence for once, in some fashion.
All right.
Only just off the
I'd be choosing Daniel Jai Cornish.
Would you? Because he asked about you.
Asked about me, but...
The winner of the sporting game ball is Cody McGowan, who asked the question about NBL expansion.
Right, no, fair enough. Cody, we're going to try and get that ball out to you as soon as possible, and we'll be in touch, and congratulations. And thanks for joining in the conversation. Grantley, we've got 5 rounds remaining. We're up to round 21, 22, 23, 24, and the 25. 5 rounds remaining.
They're not going to be all played this weekend, though.
They will not. No. But round 21 will be played this weekend, and we need to tell the good folk out there where they can go out and see another exciting game of NBL basketball.
Well, they might see some interesting games this weekend yet again, And it all starts, it's actually a big round, starts on Thursday with the Breakers and the Crocs. So if the Crocs are hoping to sneak into second place, they probably need to get this win against the Breakers in Auckland. But I think New Zealand will win that game. On Friday night, the Adelaide 36ers against the Wildcats. The Sixers have been Perth's bogey team this season, but I think Perth will get that one on the road. The Hawks and the Blaze. This is going to be a tough game for the Blaze against the Hawks. And I actually fancy the Hawks with a bit of an upset over Gold Coast. On Saturday night, the Melbourne Tigers against Adelaide 36ers. The Tigers have to win that one at home. On Sunday, the Kings are at home to the Townsville Crocodiles. The Crocs may be a little fatigued coming off that New Zealand road game, but they should be good enough to beat the Sydney Kings in Sydney. Big game for the Cairns Taipans heading out to Perth. They've got to play Perth about 12 times between now and the end of the season.
They've got 2 more games against Perth remaining.
And this is crucial to their playoff chances, but I think Perth will have too much in the tank for Cairns. Finally, Gold Coast against the Wollongong Hawks.
It's a must win.
That's a very quick turnaround from Friday night when they play each other again on Sunday.
Must win.
And it's a little like a playoff series. And yes, it is a must win for the Gold Coast, but I think Gold Coast at home should beat Wollongong.
Yes, Grantley, no doubt there's some very important games coming up this weekend, and the Gold Coast plays against the Wollongong Hawks. That is a mini-final series for them, because if they were to drop 2, you'd say that they would be under the pump to make the playoffs. So you'd expect them to get the win against the Wollongong Hawks. Also, Grantley, we need to make mention of a MVP dinner night extravaganza that's coming up on March the 26th. It's going to be at the Crown Casino here in Melbourne. It's where the MVP and all the All-Star Awards are announced for both the NBL and the WNBL. It's also a night where the International Player of the Year Award is announced. It's a basketball bevy of stars will be there. There'll be red carpet type activity, all that types of stuff. You'll be there, I'll be there. You can be there as well. For all the details, jump on the NBL website, and if you have the chance to purchase a ticket and rub shoulders with the greatest players this country has running around at the moment.
And you.
And you. It should be a great night. Grantley, we also have to pay respect to those that support us and support this great game of ours here in Australia. And it all starts out with the naming rights sponsor of the NBL, IINet.
Connect better.
1.
Centrebet.
N1.
Sporting.
Rent Smart.
And Virgin Australia.
Yes, and I tell you what, only 5 rounds remaining until the playoffs start. We're coming down to the very pointy end and some testing times for a few teams out there. So get out there and support your team. For all the latest news and all the goings on the NBL, this is the place to be. Join us next week on the #1 NBL podcast in the universe. And it's called It Goes Off